What up, Hans?
What up, Wallstreet Bitch? That was us just testing out our new intro song. We do hope that you like it.
It's I'll Be There by us.
It's a little out there, but it's a good freaking intro song.
It's a little sexual too, I would say. Like, it might be pushing the boundaries a little bit too much. But that's okay. Sometimes you gotta push the boundaries. Sometimes you gotta seal the envelope. And without people who do that, where would we be today? Answer me that. Welcome to episode number...
this is 23, I think. 23. Yeah, you were gone the last episode.
The last two episodes.
Yeah, welcome to the Baptized Machine. We interviewed Valdemar, not Lord Voldemort, but Valdemar Archuleta. He is running for Congress in Colorado against Diana DeGetti, who's no one ever heard of, but she represents Denver on the federal level. And so this guy is a Republican running against her, which Denver is now a very Democratic city. So there's really
it's a good episode.
There's a really low chance that he's going to win. But yeah, give it a listen. It's a good episode. He's the head of the Log Cabin Gay Republican Party in Colorado. Really nice guy. Hopefully we can have him back. He wants to meet you, Wallstreet Bitch. So he'll make you his bitch.
I'd love to meet him. Before we get kicked off here, I just want to read off our sponsors just to get it out of the way. First of all, we are sponsored by Happy Dose. They are a all-natural, pure and potent supplement company. We got sleep strips here and also ginkgo biloba. They got a bunch of good stuff. www.happydoseco.com. Check them out. I just want to read off our sponsor.
We're live on Twitter and YouTube.
Oh, next we have Chef's Liquor Cabinet. They provide all of the booze for our episodes and for everyday life. Chef's Liquor Cabinet, check them out.
Yeah, Chef's Liquor Cabinet, really, they fuel this show. You could argue they truly fuel this show. They keep us going.
And then, of course, Looney Raccoony, the fashion company, pretty active on our Twitter account, which is funny.
Yeah, Looney's a big supporter on Twitter to really help us out.
Yeah, he's got some, or they or he, I'm not sure, have some...
I think it's they're raccoons, so...
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
They've got some good merch. I saw one of RFK Jr. that was pretty cool. But yeah, I'm excited for today, dude.
Me too.
I guess we haven't announced who we're interviewing.
No, we haven't. But it's pretty exciting. I'm going to post it, actually, YouTube stream. If you could listen to us on YouTube, we just need a few more subscribers there, so that'd be
excited for today, dude.
Really helpful. But yeah, give us a listen on YouTube.
So today, we are interviewing the Shaman, again. The QAnon Shaman, known as the face of January 6th. He's, I think, was in jail for 2 or 3 years. He's out now. He's ripping and roaring. Actually a pretty smart guy. He's fun to talk to. So we're excited for that. We're also going to have on, how do you describe this woman who's coming on?
Her name's LeeAnn Starr. I don't subscribe to her OnlyFans, so not sure if she said she's a patriot using her tits and ass to bring people to the right side of history. Her Instagram is LeeAnn Starr 23.
So we're having the QAnon Shaman.
She also has a podcast. Well, she's like a political commentator.
Oh, cool.
She's like a conservative woman.
Okay.
And she might have some words on us. She might have some words for us on conspiracy fans. She said something about an OnlyFans mom bothering her, so I'm assuming. I don't know. I wonder if she gets penetrated on OnlyFans.
Well,
I might ask that question, depending on how things go. But we are live, so she might be listening and hearing it now as well.
Very true.
Very true.
So yeah, that's the agenda for today. We're going to have a good time. We're going to take a couple shots. We've got some Grey Goose here. Very exciting. That's it. So when is the big dog hopping on?
The big dog, he should be on in about 4 minutes.
And if you have any questions for the big dog, Just tweet at us.
Yeah, we'll be checking our DMs, Twitter, YouTube. You can email us. We won't be checking emails during the show.
Oh, I'm not.
Maybe we could ask Gary too.
I'm not connected to internet.
Ooh,
here.
that's because I have a new Wi-Fi now.
Oh god,
dude. So this actually brings me to a good story. Fuck Xfinity.
Okay, tell me it first.
This could be a good clip. Screw Xfinity, Comcast. They are the worst internet provider in the country. They rip you off. I had to pretend I died to get my plan canceled. Yeah, the new one is called Kevin's Wi-Fi. I don't know who that is. Should be called Tom.
The password?
And the password is, I can't say that on air.
You type it in?
Yeah. You keep talking though.
So I want Hans to tell this story about how we got out of a Comcast contract, because I've never heard anyone do this before. Here's the password.
Capital S. Yeah, so I was in a I was in a Xfinity Comcast contract, and they wouldn't let me get out. I said I was moving. I said I was moving to a place where they didn't exist. They still wouldn't let me get out of the contract. Then I faked my own death. I created a fake death certificate on Adobe Photoshop, and then
didn't your mom call in?
Then I had my mom call in as a grieving mother, and they finally canceled the plan without charging.
But that's what it took. That's what it took.
So fuck you, Xfinity.
Now I got his own death.
Now I got quantum fiber, and here we go. We have Jake Chansley in the studio. What's up, Jake? Welcome back to the Baptized Machine. How are you doing?
Hey guys,
I'm really good.
Feedback.
Oh, we can't hear him in our headphones.
Hold on, let me fix this is the issue. There you go.
Sorry, we're having a little technical difficulty.
Quite all right.
Yeah, thanks for coming back. I think last time we talked to you, we were all in separate spaces.
We have a couple other cameras going too. So when we edit it all, they'll come on. But yeah, we could sit close.
Yeah,
thanks,
I'll
Jake.
move up a little bit.
So let me put it to you this way: when it comes to Vivek, do you guys trust anybody that's with bioengineering or big pharma?
Nope.
Okay, you know that's what Vivek was before he ran for president, right? Okay. Do you trust anybody that plagiarizes Barack Obama's previous speeches?
Yeah, but didn't he just plagiarize a couple like hot lines?
Yeah, but when he said, "Who is this skinny brown kid with the funny name?"
Line for line, yeah.
Straight from Obama's playbook. Let me ask you this. Do you trust anybody that wants to get back into that bad trade deal with China?
No, is that he supports that?
Yeah. Do you trust anybody that was pro masks and lockdowns in 2020?
But wouldn't you say that his overall message and what he stands for outweighs all that stuff? If you're a Trumper,
judge a tree by its fruits, and just because that tree starts to grow in a way that you like doesn't mean that its roots and its fruits are good.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to Vivek, look, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Yep.
And what we have seen from the political scene is people like Obama, these people that come out of nowhere and they say everything that everybody wants to hear. And then lo and behold, they're more of the same. Ramaswamy is no different. He burst onto the scene and said all this stuff that everybody wanted to hear. And everybody's like, yeah, he's saying what I'm thinking. Now, if you look into intelligence agencies and what they do, what do? They listen, right? They follow certain influencers on social media. They follow a bunch of the general public to find out what it is that they are thinking, what it is that they believe, and then they end up crafting a script that everybody wants to hear.
And you think he's actually created by the intelligence agency? Really?
Well, wasn't he an Ivy League?
He was,
graduate?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was.
So let's put all this together. Ivy League graduate, pro masks in 2020, voted for Hillary Clinton, doesn't believe that January 6th, came out with a book that said Mike Pence did the right thing.
But
then he also He's a big pharma CEO, and he's plagiarizing Obama.
I would argue, though, that he's changed since a lot of those points. And he put his full support behind Trump. He dropped out of the race early.
Only after he said that the only way to save Trump is to vote for Vivek.
Yeah, he did say that. You're right. Yeah, interesting.
Look, dude, I'm very, very wary and skeptical of anyone that's coming forward out of nowhere saying everything that everybody wants to hear.
That's true.
And then here's the other thing, okay? This is another thing about Vivek that I'm just like, oh my God. He was talking about defunding the FBI and abolishing it entirely, but keeping around certain agencies like the DEA that are not corrupt.
Really?
I'm sorry. Wait. What?
Interesting.
Interesting. You're saying the DEA is not corrupt? Okay, bud.
Yeah. All right, well, through this real quick, though. So I got the two primaries that we're just talking about Vivek. So he's the first on the list. Then we have Asa, who I don't even know is running.
Trump is last?
Then we got Nikki Haley, who I think is still running.
I call her Nikki Faley.
Then we have Ron DeSantis, he's out. Chris Christie, he's out. Ron DeFascist, baby. Chris Christie, he's... Oh man, I grew up
How
in New
old
Jersey.
is this?
Chris Krispy Kreme. That's what I call him. Chris Krispy Kreme.
He's terrible. And then Ryan L. Binkley, I have never heard of. He might be just like a Colorado local guy, I'm not sure. And then Trump's at the bottom, and there's a write-in. So on that ballot, you're saying if I decide with the Republican one, I should go for Trump. You would go for Trump.
That's who I'd vote for.
All right. Well, then real quick, and this is just for the primary, so it's not general election, right? It's just to decide. And Trump's going to be the Republican regardless of my vote. But the Democrat one has a hilarious one at the bottom to appreciate, Jake. So we have Jason Michael Palmer at the top. No idea who that is. Gabrielle Cornejo. No idea who that is. Stop me if either of you guys know.
No.
Frankie Lozado. Nope. Dean Phillips. I've heard of him. He's been like the main contender, I guess, for Biden. Stephen P. Lyons. Haven't heard of him. Marianne Williamson. She's like a fortune teller, I believe. Then we have Joseph R. Biden Jr. Then Armando Mondo Perez Cerrato. And then the last one, this is what's interesting. It says non-committed delegate. It's like I'm almost tempted to select that because it's just like all of your choices suck, Democrats. I'm going to pick the non-committed delegate. I don't even know what that means.
One thing I noticed is that RFK isn't on the menu. And if the Democrats truly believe in the notion of voting in the people's voice and choice, RFK wouldn't have been kept off the ballot in the first place. He was running as a Democrat. He wasn't even given a Secret Service detail.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, he switched to independent because of
this. But that's only because the Democrats were muscling him out.
Yeah. But then you have all these random names we've never even heard of on the ballot. But RFK couldn't get on it because he actually had a shot, right? Like, what the?
Yes, that's why. Because he actually had a shot.
It's shocking to me to see how RFK Jr. is portrayed in the media just because I've listened to all his podcasts, watched all his speeches. I know his stance and his policies. And to see him so inaccurately portrayed is just really disheartening, and it sucks. But I think I'm going for RFK over Trump, and I think he has a serious shot. Like when you look at all the polls and the stats, would you be happy with someone like R in the White House, or no bet?
Look, just because RFK and I agree on Big Pharma and Fauci doesn't mean that I agree with him on things like his desire to ban assault weapons or his belief in the climate crisis BS. Those two things disqualify him as a viable candidate in my eyes. There's also a lot of shady stuff in his history. Granted, the Kennedy family has been corrupt. We know that. And he is kind of a black sheep of the Kennedy family. But the thing is, dude, is that look at it like this. Do we really need an old baby boomer lawyer that wants to ban assault weapons and believes in the climate change narrative as our president? That's what we have with Biden.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but I would argue that it would be an extreme breath of fresh air. But I see your concern.
At this point, the country's being suffocated.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
of course, a breath of fresh air is anything other than Biden. But what you got to remember, dude, is that if we learned anything from Trump's first 4 years in office, it's that having a single president in the White House who wants to dismantle the deep state is not enough to affect real long-term change.
Yeah.
Because the bureaucracy can and will stand in the way, the mockingbird media can and will stand in the way, and the next president can come in and just completely undo everything that the previous president did in a matter of months.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
wild.
So my thinking is that while getting a new president in there, whether it's Trump or anybody other than Biden, might be quote unquote a breath of fresh air, the real battle is in the Congress. Because the Congress actually has the ability to defund agencies, to rewrite law, to get rid of old law, to impeach federal judges, to create legislation that ties the hands of the deep state. And that's why the Congress has been infiltrated so heavily over the last several decades.
Yeah, I'm curious, just to back things up real quick. I'm familiar with Kennedy's, climate change narrative, but what would you say your truth is around people saying climate change is caused by, humans or accelerated by humans?
It's absolutely ridiculous. However, human beings are, and more like the system that human beings are using for their economies is destroying the environment. But it's because of anthropogenic chemicals, man-made forever chemicals that do not biodegrade for thousands, if not tens of thousands of years. And they bioaccumulate in the environment, and that's to toxic levels. Bioaccumulation is basically where they just accumulate to toxic levels, and they destroy the microbiological life in the soil, the water, the air, and in our bodies. And we're getting in an exponentially more toxic environment as time goes on. It's causing ecocide, the collapse and destruction of whole ecosystems. It's causing the mass extinction of species all over the planet. And those species and those ecosystems are vital to stabilize the Earth as a global system of biology. So,
dude, thank you so much for saying that, because that is the one unacknowledged thing that is, I think, fucking with us the most. But sorry, continue.
No, you're right. And this is the part of why I'm just like appalled that RFK Jr. is able to discern how it is that the COVID 1984 agenda and the clot shots are bad, but he's not able to discern that the very corporations that are actually causing this environmental catastrophe that's getting worse and worse as time goes on are the very corporations that are responsible or claiming that they want to save the planet through limiting CO2 emissions, which doesn't make any fucking sense. So it's like, how can you see the pattern here, RFK Jr., but you can't see the pattern over here?
Right. And cancer rates are through the roof. I don't know much about like the soil crops growth thing, but I've heard that it's a disaster and that's scary. Like no one's acknowledging how bad it is. Like how many years do we have until we're actually like, fuck, we fucked up,
Well, we're kind of on a knife's edge here, you guys.
Yeah.
Every time the Native Americans would get to a crossroads in their culture, they would ask themselves, how will this decision we make now affect 7 generations from now?
Wow.
We don't do that in this culture. We're just focused on the now and how much money changes hands based on the decisions that we make, how much the economy is going to grow.
Yep.
Now, if we ask ourselves, how will our decisions now affect 7 generations from now? Well, clearly, we're not going to have a food supply. We're not going to have farmable land. We're not going to have drinkable water, breathable air. We're not going to have ecosystems and animals, let alone things like bees pollinating our flowers and stuff like that. So we're really close to the cliff here. We're really close to the edge. It is entirely possible to steer us away from this catastrophe and save the future.
What do we
But
need
it's
to do?
not going to be able to be done through using the current system that we're employing.
It requires like a really radical change, right?
Well, we need people like you to be elected. When is your let's say you were elected, when would your start date be?
Yeah, and what have you been up to too? Like
Well,
working on that.
The primary is, I believe, at the end of July, but I have to collect the signatures in order to get on the ballot. And the system is crafted in such a way that collecting signatures on a grassroots level is very, very difficult. Especially considering, like, for example, here in Arizona, if you're a Republican, you only have to get Republican signatures for your petition. If you're a Democrat, you only have to get Democrat signatures for your petition. If you're a Libertarian, then the pool that you have to draw from is not strictly Libertarian. It's Libertarian, Independent, and no party affiliation.
Geez,
now it's much, much wider of a range to garner the signatures necessary in order to get on the ballot. This was done to muscle out third-party members. Yeah. And as funny as it is, it was actually done to muscle out third-party members largely because of the Republicans here in Arizona. So
interesting.
I have not garnered anywhere near the amount of signatures that I need, because one of the funny things I found out as I went knocking on doors is, and it's something I should have probably seen coming, Libertarians just want to be left alone.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
If you come knocking on their door, they're like either not going to answer, or they're going to be like, "Who are you? What do you want?"
Yeah.
Interesting.
How close are you with the signatures? Like, do you think, like, realistically, do you think you have a pretty good shot at it, or what odds would you give yourself?
It would require an act of God.
A miracle, yeah.
I think you should get on TikTok if you're not already. That, from what I've seen, has the biggest reach, like natural growth wise, out of any social media. You might already be on, but might be worth a shot.
Jake,
I won't get on TikTok. I won't get on Facebook. I won't get on Instagram.
True.
And the thing is, what you got to remember about all of those platforms is that they all have my face and my name in their algorithm.
Oh, yeah.
So anytime I put anything up, or I'm sorry, anytime anybody else puts anything up with my face or my name, hey, you guys know YouTube took it down.
YouTube took it down. I know, dude. Yep. It's fucked up. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, we will not be actually, we're live streaming on YouTube, so this will be interesting. I'll probably get my second strike.
Well, hey, that means you had a big enough impact on the world that the evil powers that be, like, know your face. So I'd be proud of that if I was you. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a badge of honor.
It is. It honestly is.
Jake, I'm curious what you do for work. Or is it mainly like speaking engagements for you at this point and everything? Do you still have do you have a day job now after prison, or how have things been going in that regards in your personal life?
I don't get paid for my whatever interviews or speaking engagements I do. I have my website, the merchandise, the book sales, or the consultations, the shamanic consultations.
Yeah.
That's my primary source of income.
That's what we wanted to actually talk about, shamanism next. Wallstreet Bitch, I have some questions.
Yeah, I wanted to cover, just because I feel like it's the deepest, most profound part about you as a person, and you don't really get to talk about it that much, even though I can tell that it influences, your daily life. And when you said the Native Americans used to think 7 generations ahead, that just struck me, because that's pretty profound. If you as a people are doing that, then you're pretty consciously involved or evolved. But yeah, can you touch on that? Like, how did you get into shamanism? Like, what does it mean to you? Because I feel like people don't really know that about you.
I've always been interested in it ever since I was a child. Something told me that the guys in the horns and the face paint, or the feather headdresses dancing around a fire, banging a drum, singing a song, that they knew something that we had lost in the West. So I've always been curious. After I did a lot of investigating into pretty much every single religion on the planet, eventually I got to looking into shamanism a little more deeply. And what I came to find was that all of the... Hi,
LeeAnn.
Oh, you didn't...
Let him finish his question, and then we'll introduce you. Yeah, 1 second.
One thing I found was that all the religions I had previously studied essentially had shamanism as their foundation. They were all practicing different forms of shamanism. So when I discovered that, I was like, well, I want to go to the source. I don't want to be practicing some sort of dogmatic delineation of somebody else's idea of how to get to God. I want to go right to the source. And if the shaman is the one that has their one foot in the spirit world, one foot in the physical, if the shaman is the one that acts like the medium between the tribe and God, or the tribe and angelic spirits in the spirit world, then that's what I want to do. And so I started to do a lot of investigating into shamanism and their rites of passage, how it is that they would initiate somebody into the shamanic practice. And I started to just do self-initiation. I started to do all the things that normally a shaman would do to introduce a shamanic apprentice into the fray. And I just started doing those things myself.
Interesting. And so you started this as a kid, you said, right? Or
kind of. I started looking into it and becoming curious about it as a child, but I really started practicing it, I think, at like age 25.
And can you give us a quick, from what I understand, shamanism is essentially you're working with the energies of spirits and the earth. Is that, am I on the right track here, or could you give us like a little, I guess, explanation of what it actually is?
So the term shaman is a Siberian or Mongolian term, and it simply means the one who knows. And that means that it could be a man or a woman. Shaman is an androgynous term. But anthropologists have chosen to use the moniker shaman or shamanism to paint all indigenous philosophy around the world that believes similar things with the same broad brush. If we look into the core fundamental tenets of shamanism, given the anthropological term, then there's some things that they all believe around the planet that are kind of in sync with one another. And then I'll explain how this relates to religion. So all shamanic cultures believe in, number one, spirit, or like a unifying field of energy that we call God, or the Great Spirit, or the Hindus call it Brahma, the Buddhists call it Nirvana, the Hebrews, they call it what, like Yahweh, or the Muslims call it Allah. But ultimately, it's the same unified field of energy that impregnates all creation with spirit and consciousness. The quantum physicists call it non-local consciousness. Now, they also all believe in the idea of a spirit world, and there being positive and negative spirits, good and evil spirits in that spirit. They also all believe in the use of song and dance, singing and drumming to get in touch and in tune with that spirit world, to banish evil entities and to invite good ones, and to get in touch and in tune with God or the Great Spirit. They also all believe in trance states or meditation or prayer. And this is also kind of where song and dance and singing and drumming come into play as well, getting into those trance states or those meditative states. They also all believe in healing. And that's also where song and dance and things of that nature, prayer, come into play as well, and working with energy and stuff like that. They also all believe in the idea of sacraments, and there being certain plants or fungi or whatever in the ecosystem that help to cure or heal disease, etc., as well as get an individual into an altered state of consciousness that allows them to get in touch with God and with the spirit world. They also all believe in one form or another in something called ordeals, which is like where you get into like tattooing, or you get into like the Sundance rituals with the Native Americans, or long pilgrimages that take several days, the vision quest, etc. And this is designed to, through adversity, show the individual the incredible things that they are capable of and put them in a trance state that gets them in touch and in tune with God. So if you think about it, all religious institutions across the planet believe in all of those core fundamental tenets of shamanism.
Right.
And they all are practicing different forms of it based on their ecosystem, based on their native tongue, based on their ancestral lineage and their rituals that have been handed down over millennia.
So, just to, I forget the word right now, but to divert the conversation, we'll introduce LeeAnn Starr. We usually let her, this is her first time on. This is Jake's second time. So if you want to, introduction, and then I know that you might have some questions for Jake too, so we could kind of give you a chance to fire away as well, and just keep the conversation going. And thanks for coming on the Baptized Machine. I'm Hans. This is the Wallstreet Bitch.
Yeah, welcome, LeeAnn.
He's way more interesting than me, so it's all good.
Well, you might have some interesting questions, but yeah, give us a little background on yourself, what you're all about on Twitter or online or your social media presence, and then we can keep the conversation going. Maybe Jake has some questions for you too.
Pretty much my whole shtick is using TNA to bring people to the right side of history. It's just kind of like a joke, but not really. I work with trafficking victims, children specifically. I have since 2011, and I want to run for Congress, and I'm working on it because I work in oil and gas. So I know a billionaire who's going to help me. He owns an oil company, and I'm not going to say who he is yet. And that's about it. That's the only reason why I even think I have a chance. Yeah. But
wait, so I love you said you use TNA to bring people to the right side of the political spectrum. Does that mean like you infuse like political segments in your content, or like how do you do that?
I mean, I just think people say that just because like I do have like an OnlyFans, even though I don't post on it anymore, honestly, and I'm not gonna do it probably anymore. I told them that this last month. But I just have cleavage and stuff. But I do make videos like topless and stuff talking about politics just to be stupid. But it works. So, like, I made that whole Bill of Rights thing with all of the Bill of Rights, like dancing around and like stupid.
I mean, if I had Drake's wiener, I would do videos pantless and talk about politics. I can send it to you after if you want. I got the video.
I'm so surprised I avoided it the whole time. I have not seen it anywhere, and I was like, thank God.
I don't think it's worth it. I saw it, and I think it to me it looked a little strange and unappealing, so you're not missing anything.
It's like big as fuck, and I'm good on that.
Looks like it's.
I just seen people making fun of him on TikTok, like using like really big garden hoses and like swinging it around. So I don't know what he's doing in this video, but
yeah, I think it's very long and skinny. That's where the garden hose reference comes in. Yeah.
I don't want to see it because my brother reminds me of a white Drake. I don't know why, so I just don't want to. I don't want to see it. Like, no, I'm good on that.
Yeah. What state would you be running for Congress in?
Pennsylvania, unfortunately.
We're East Coasters ourselves.
Originally from New Jersey, Morris County. Shout out. Delaware Water Gap.
Yeah, it sucks, but it's not as bad as like California.
You got the Amish, and they make like really good furniture, though. Like
I
some
love
of the best
Amish
furniture.
people.
Yeah. They make very good furniture.
I'm trying to find a family that will take me in for like a week to a month just to like learn and live the way that they live. I heard that some of them will do it, so I'm trying to find a family that will take me in, an Amish family. Who knows? Maybe I just won't ever come back to like this life. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, you might just be building barns the rest of your life. LeeAnn, do you have any questions for Jake?
I probably will. I'm just like not at this moment, just because I'm like on like I don't know, I'm like nervous-ish for some reason.
Don't be nervous.
I think I'm just nervous because I have a video thing to get this girl into a safe house, so I'm like I don't know if they can take her. Like it literally happened before I was about to come on. I was like, why do you do this to me all the time?
What happened? Are you allowed to talk about it?
Also, Jake, if you have any questions for LeeAnn, but we can also keep firing away too. We're endless, but I just want to give you both an opportunity to speak.
I'll talk about anything. Or answer anything. I don't care. Whatever it is.
Okay. Well, I know we dove into the shamanism, Jake. I don't know if there's anything more you wanted to add to that, but I was watching one of your interviews a few days ago, and you delved into the Masonic temple for a bit. Am I wrong in saying that? Do you remember that?
I've talked about it on a number of occasions. So I'm not quite certain which one you heard.
It was the Vlad TV one, I think he's referring to.
Okay.
That's just like a part of history that I've always been fascinated with. And I'm wondering if you could shed a little bit of light on how that world is connected to our politics today, if at all.
And just to give a little story before, I actually went to a Christmas market like 4 blocks down the road from me that was at a Masonic temple. And my first time ever in one of their temples was at this like Christmas market. And they had certain areas closed off. And that's all. But it was a beautiful building. Crazy, really cryptic art all around. But yeah, sorry, go on. That's my only experience with them.
And if you don't... Sorry, go ahead.
Well, the shamanic roots of all religions are also similar to, the Masonic tradition is kind of a form of shamanism in that it's similar to how other religions are forms of shamanism. It's the use of what is called ceremonial magic. Now, the Masonic temples, just like most secret societies, the Rosicrucians, the Golden Dawn, the Illuminati, they're all kind of like distillations of the ancient mystery schools and the knowledge that was being handed over to the initiates of the mystery schools. How that relates to politics, well, first of all Masonic temples are built on ley lines. So that is a factor as well. And I think we talked a little bit about ley lines in our last conversation and how the Capitol buildings all over the country, Washington, D.C., the Vatican, the London Palace, the pyramids, the obelisks, the ancient temples, the medicine wheels, they're all built on ley lines.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so how that relates to politics is this. Most of the secret societies, and this includes the Masonic temples, they are married in one way or another to the intelligence agencies. Because cryptology and keeping secrets and encoding information is what secret societies are all about, and that's also what intelligence agencies are all about.
And they're embedded into NASA too, right? Or the space agencies. That's what I've heard. Is that
they're into everything? But one thing you have to understand about the Masons is that they actually understand the true value of resources. So that's why the whole square and the compass thing, there's a lot of symbolism behind that, but it's also about the creation of civilization and the controlling of the resources and the routes of transportation of those resources. That's where the real value is in the resources themselves, not in the money that's used to exchange the resources. So having control over the resources is a big part of the Masonic temples, and having control over the resources of the civilization. You can't have a civilization if you don't have water and food, if you don't have resources. Obviously, Masons were doing what? Building buildings, etc. So that's part of it. So think about that. That means you got corporate influence with the Masons. You've got intelligence agency influence with the Masons. And also politics, because politics is going to, and government is kind of like the marrying between information, intelligence gathering, and how it is that information can be used to move resources.
Interesting. So would you call them like the original world order? Because this is like country sovereignty has nothing to do with this, right? They're spread across the globe.
Yes.
Interesting. Interesting.
LeeAnn, I was curious if you could explain a little bit. I know we talked a little bit on Twitter about the work you do to like bust pedophiles. I think that's pretty interesting. I'd love to just hear kind of an overview of that.
Like that, what he's saying about the ley lines before, like back in 2011, I used to go to DC all the time, and there's like hidden symbols everywhere, and that's what I would do. Like that was like what I would do on my free time. I would go to DC and like look, they're all in these buildings, like all these weird, they use all this symbolism, and I started looking into it like way back then. So I would like go to the archives, is like one of my favorite buildings. So I was really pissed that they fucking did that the other day there. But
Wait,
they have like all these weird
what did they do at the archives?
They fucking dumped red powder all over the Constitution and the rotunda, like the fucking climate people. I'm like, will you get a fucking life? Like, stop. Like, I love it there, and I hated when they put that bullshit about racist shit. There's nothing racist in any of it. Like, but then they did that, and I was like, oh my God, like, just fucking stop. Because that's like one of my favorite buildings, but there's like symbols in all the buildings, like in the foundations. Like, if you look, there's like books on it. So I just started like walking around and looking at all of it. I was actually going to work at the archives, but I could not afford to live in DC. So I ended up not.
The symbolism, like in the Vatican with the pineal gland, like I always think like there's symbolism embedded in all of that. Who decided to put it there? Like no one, we don't learn that in school. It's just like, oh yeah, this is how it is, and no one ever asks that question. So
there's this weird eyeball in the dollar bill.
Yeah, right.
It's a language, similar to how letters are symbols, right? If you have a symbol that means a paragraph worth of information, then you can end up putting these symbols that are largely esoteric, unless you have been indoctrinated or initiated into that level of understanding regarding that symbol's level of information and what it stands for. You can have these things everywhere and nobody will be any the wiser except for the people initiated.
Yeah.
And so who are they?
Like, why do you think they do all these rituals? Just because it's art? They always do satanic shit for art. Like, come on, they believe in it regardless if other people do. Like the shit with the CERN, like they did that whole ritual. They have like a Shiva statue. Like, come on, dude. They do it for a reason. It's not for art. There's plenty of different ways to express yourself through art, and they always choose that shit because it's real and they believe it, rather other people do or not. Like, they believe in it, so they don't do it for nothing.
Do you believe in it personally? Do you, each of you believe in it?
Yeah, I see way too much weird shit, and I've been around people that do that shit in DC, like politicians, and like I used to dance at private parties for politicians and celebrities. Like, they do weird shit. Like, my friend was in a boy band. That's how I like knew a lot of people in Hollywood and stuff. And dude, they do a lot of weird shit. I've been telling people that for a long time, but some people just don't believe it. They've been conditioned to think it sounds insane, but it's really not. Like, they believe in this shit and they do weird shit, man. Like, even my friend was like surprised.
But one thing it's important to note here, they believe in it because it works. Okay? It is the combination of their will and their will creating certain effects in the world. And it's because what they're doing with these rituals is affecting the quantum realm and therefore the holographic universe as a whole, especially when it's done on the ley lines and in places like the Capitol buildings or the Washington Monument, etc. So the reason why they believe in it is because it works. But that is what they're doing, is they're trading dollars for pennies, especially considering that they're allying themselves with dark, occultic, demonic forces, exchanging pieces of their soul for temporary worldly power or the illusion of temporary worldly power. Eventually, all of that stuff is eventually revoked and they lose it, and they come to realize that they sold their soul to dark forces for eternity. That is part of why they continue to do this stuff, because it is an addiction. It's kind of like surgical addiction for both the doctor and for the patient. People that get plastic surgery and all that stuff, they get heavily addicted to the process and the recovery and all that. And doctors get a thrill out of cutting people open. So it's similar to that in that these people get a rush from this process and the after effects of the process, but eventually those after effects wear off, and you need to do another surgery or whatever in order to get that high again. And the more of these rituals you do, the more desensitized to these endorphins you become, and the more intense the rituals have to be in order for you to get any satisfaction.
Yeah, you could. That's like, you could compare that. Like, I love whitewater rafting, and I just decided to do a trip on the border of Guatemala and Mexico where there's like cartel running immigrants with weapons across the border. Because just rapids aren't exciting enough. I need dudes with guns doing border crossings now too, and crocodiles. So next is Zambezi. But yeah, I get that addiction. I get that addiction thing that the doctor might get.
But how does Satanism tie into the Masons? Are they different groups using the same sort of ley lines? And then I would love to hear more about these high-end parties with the weird rituals, if you're allowed to talk about them. But
I was not at those. I just know politicians, and my friend was in a boy band and he died, so that's why I don't
Sorry about that.
want to say who he is specifically. Like if he was still here, I know he would talk about this. But since he's not, I just feel weird about it. But he actually hated Hollywood because of the shit going on, and like one of the first conversations I ever had with him, he was like, now I know why child stars kill themselves or they're on drugs. Because like parents knew, like they would drop their kids off at these pool parties. That's what they called them. And the parents knew what was happening and they just didn't care. And he just couldn't believe that this was like a thing that they were doing and no one cared and everyone knew about it. And yeah, I mean, they've conditioned people not to believe this stuff so well that that's why they just look at everyone that does know about this like we're crazy. But no, you're just blind. Like they want you to think that it's insane and not real, obviously. So the people that are just so closed off to it, I don't think there's hope for them to ever, like there's a few people that I've shown things to that now are convinced, but there's just some people that just won't ever. They think they know everything and that it's crazy and woo woo, and it's really not. Like frequency is real, vibrations are real, like all that. It's like that's what we're made out of. Like what do you mean? It's real. Like they just don't want people. They just conditioned everyone to think that it's stupid.
Guys, really quick, I want to answer your question about Satanism, and I also want to talk about CERN. But unfortunately, I did not take my bathroom break before I did the interview. Let me run and take a piss, and I'll be right back. Okay, and I'll answer those questions.
Cool.
No worries, man. We appreciate it.
That happens to me all the time when I'm on podcasts. I'm like, I really have to pee, but I'll just sit there and hold it like the whole time.
He's going right now. I feel like I usually leave like once per podcast. This is more, or I guess he's getting beer. But I guess it's a little more awkward when you're live streaming now that we figured out how to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But how's the weather been on the East Coast? It's just starting to snow here in Colorado. Oh wow.
Yeah, it's snowing now.
Yeah, it's snowing here too.
Yeah, they've been saying it was going to happen. I didn't believe them, but it actually is. So.
Well, so just related to what you do, LeeAnn, with the trafficking of humans and children stuff. I'm curious what you thought of that movie. What was it called? The Sound of Silence.
I didn't watch it.
Yeah, because I heard there's like a little controversy around that guy's background where he was like pretending to rescue people, but he wasn't actually, or something. I don't know if you know anything about that.
I work with people that are very private because of things like this, because of organizations. Like they have a lot of private donors and things, and I know who some of them are.
Yeah.
But they don't want anything to do with those kind of, because they've had very bad experiences with it. And I've heard that for a long time, but I don't ever really want to say anything bad because I don't know personally if these things are true or, and if they are saving even one person, then
it's worth it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I didn't see it.
Yeah. Also, I feel like some people start out with really good intentions, but then the way their organization or system
I didn't like
of doing
what
things
the director said
yeah.
when the movie came out. Like, oh, this is the American dream because it was making so much money. It's not an American dream. This is a terrible topic.
Other people
and
suffering.
I just didn't like that. And there's Carlos Slim that paid for this, and he's really in with the Clintons, and I don't know. That rubbed me the wrong way too.
Really?
So I don't know.
Oh, well, all that makes me feel better about you, because I wasn't sure what you were going to say in reaction to that question.
Wait, what question?
What about that movie? Because I was like,
yeah,
I appreciate your response.
If they had Carlos Slim involved, it makes me, I don't know. This is a weird person to have paying for a movie like that, but.
Jake, we were just talking about that movie, The Sound of Silence. Sound of Freedom, sorry, when you were gone. Yeah, I can't even say it right.
I watched it, and it is a very sanitized version of what's actually going on.
Oh.
What's funny is how intensely it was fought to even have that sanitized version released. The child trafficking industry, or just human trafficking in general, which is the modern day slave trade, is the most lucrative black market industry in the world. There is and there are tiers to it. So, you have the low level stuff, then you have the mid level, and then you have the high level. If you want to see kind of like all the different varying angles and aspects of it, a really good movie to watch would actually be Taken. Because
that's like more
in that
realistic.
movie, they show all the different levels kind of and how this stuff operates, how they abduct women, how they force them into like heroin addiction and stuff to keep them, in the prostitution ring, how it is that some women, especially like virgins or children, are brought into these upper level tiers so that they can be bid on at human auctions and stuff like that. Then there's obviously the low level stuff, like, for example, just people like drug addicts abducting a child or a person and keeping them locked in a room or something. When I was working with children in group homes, we heard a story in I guess it would be like a training regarding how to recognize human trafficking and child trafficking. And the story was that there was this young girl, I think she was like 12 or 13. She had been missing for 2 months. And there had been a number of people that had been tracking this young girl and trying to figure out where she was. And they finally found out where she was. And she had been abducted by a couple of local drug addicts and traffickers. And they had kept her inside of like a dog cage underneath a mattress inside of a dark room. And they only pulled her out to have sex with 5 to 6, if not 10 Johns per day. And so over the course of 2 months, this girl had been raped like 500 times. When they finally pulled her out, she was malnutrition. She was deathly ill, very, very skinny, just totally, totally destroyed this young girl's life. So there's that level of it. And then there's things like what's going on at the border, the traffic and how that relates to like NGOs and government sponsorship and the Department of Homeland Security looking the other way, the CIA's facilitation of these trafficking rings. And because it is such a large black market industry, you'd better believe that certain intelligence agencies or even certain secret societies have their fingers in the pie. Because if like it was like what I was saying earlier about the movement of resources, then of course, drugs, guns, human beings, the black market trade, you'd better believe these organizations are going to have their fingers in the pie because it garners them all sorts of funny money that they don't have to report to the government.
Yeah.
Now, how does that, coming back to Satanism, how does that relate? If, like what LeeAnn was saying about energy and frequency and vibration and the ley lines and all that stuff, if it all is factored in, then the very, very low frequency that is associated with fear or pain or suffering or confusion or depression and anxiety, if all of that stuff is feeding into the electromagnetic grid system of the planet, and if these children are being trafficked to politicians or Hollywood movie stars or to CEOs or to people in the intelligence community or in the Masonic or secret society type of world, and they're doing these rituals with these children who are either born into it and therefore not registered, not like officially like on paper, or people that are considered missing children. And this is where we get into like CPS or DCS and the runaways and all that stuff. Then what we have here is a harvesting of this low frequency energy. And it's being plugged into the grid system at these strategic locations to affect the collective consciousness of humanity on like a subconscious or collective unconscious level, permeating the world and the collective mind of humanity with fear, confusion, pain, suffering, chaos, death, destruction, etc. So that is a lot of it too, is that the Masonic lodges were not always satanic in nature. I don't know, maybe LeeAnn is familiar with the OTO, Order de Temple Orientis. I don't know if you've done a lot of research into that, or the Crowley black magic, sex magic stuff. OTO,
sorry
which
to interrupt, but my understanding of them, and correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding of the Masonic lodges is that they were holding sacred rituals and practices when Christianity started to spread across the world and take over the world, and the Christian Crusaders were burning all the books and everything, and then the Freemasons started as secret societies to protect whatever the knowledge that the Christian artwork that the Christian Crusaders were trying to
Well, that was
destroy.
the original Illuminati purpose. They were just for science and stuff, and they were forced not to because of the Vatican and all that. So they had to hide. I don't think they were evil in the beginning, but
Yeah, I heard the same
over
about
time,
the Freemasons. Yeah, too. So I wonder when it changed or what made it change.
That's what I'm trying to say about the OTO and Crowley and stuff like that. But just Satanism in general. Satan worship is Saturn worship. Okay, and Saturn worship has been around for a very, very long time. Keep in mind, Saturn in Greek mythology is Kronos, and Kronos eats his children. Kronos is a Titan.
That's a great Salvador Dali painting.
Yeah. So the Masons, from what I understood, actually started out as largely a Christian tradition trying to get to Christ level consciousness and being initiated into that level of understanding. Over time, though, it did grow a little darker as it began to be more infiltrated with these Saturn worshipers. Now, if we harken back to what I was saying regarding the ancient mystery schools, and we'll just give ancient Egypt as a good example. Within the ancient Egyptian mystery schools, there were two dueling factions of ceremonial magic. One was like the law of one, temple of Ra type of magic, which is like white magic or life magic. And the other is the temple of Set, which Set is like the Saturn worship. And they were more oriented around the use of black magic, death magic. And these dueling forces of white and black magic, or allying with angelic entities or allying with demonic entities from another dimension, these factions were fighting one another for millennia. So when we talk about the Masonic lodges or the Illuminati or the Rosicrucians or whatever, the ancient mystery schools, they were always bifurcated down these dueling paths of thought. One based on parasitism, dominance, predation, war, chaos, and the other based on peace, on love, on unity, on truth, on love and tranquility, etc. And what happened over time is that the one faction started ruling, and then the other one would infiltrate and destroy, and then the other faction would start ruling and infiltrate and destroy, etc. And this is how this has been going throughout the millennia. And we're seeing the same thing with the Masonic lodges. In particular, where we're getting into this like modern day Satanism, sex magic, ritual, death magic type of shit, is a lot of that is thanks to like Crowley and the OTO, Orden de Temple Orientis, etc., and how these lodges were infiltrated by these members of this organization. And due to this idea of religious freedom that is paramount in the Masonic tradition, they opened the doors to these individuals, and they just began to permeate these lodges and basically take them over one at a time. So if you want to look at it like these Masonic lodges have either because they're built on ley lines, right? If you view that ley line area almost like it either has an upside down pentagram or a right side up pentagram. The right side up pentagram is the worshiping of spirit and the elements being governed by spirit. That's with the star pointing upward. And if you do the upside down pentagram, it's where you have spirit being ruled by the elements or being ruled by the flesh. One is worshiping spirit, the right side up pentagram, and then the other is the upside down pentagram that is spirit being ruled by flesh. So that's kind of why we're seeing what we're seeing with the Masonic lodges, is because they've largely been infiltrated by these people that are going down this darker dimensional route because they believe that it makes them gods. They also believe that by raping a child or something like that, they can create their own little universe for which they are God in that universe.
I gotta ask you both one question. So I personally identify as a Buddhist, and I believe in the wheel of samsara, and kleshas affecting our mind to even, and then our afflictions either lead to non-virtuous or virtuous karmic actions, which then determines our dharma and the wheel of samsara. So I'm just curious, do you guys believe in reincarnation at all? Like, does that fit within any of these beliefs
Yes.
of what we're talking about? Reincarnation, that you could be reborn again into like a dog or a pigeon or your mom's cactus?
Kind of. That from what I understand, that's if you really fuck up. So, like, from what I understand, and this is also in some shamanic traditions as well, in order to become a human, you have to pass the test of all life on the planet. You have to go through the process of incarnating in all life forms on the planet. And then eventually, once you've passed all of that, then you become a human. And you get the opportunity to evolve into another dimension beyond flesh and form.
I like that.
Now, if you fuck up, if your karma is really, really bad, then you can come back as a human with a really shitty life, or you can even end up reverting back to the end of the line and having to do the whole process over again.
No,
Yeah,
dude,
I don't want to come back here
You're in
again.
Arizona. I have dreams of being a saguaro cactus in the fucking desert, near, like, just being a cactus for like 100 years.
But
And now I got a chance to be a human again. But I was a cactus.
But are you saying that people with less fortunate lives fucked up in past lives? Because I feel like that's sad.
Well,
That's sad.
Look at it like this. You are not your soul. I mean, you are not your body. You are your soul. You are your spirit. That is who and what you are. So if you take that into account, then when you, as a soul or a spirit, end up creating certain karma, whether it's positive or negative, then you come back based on that karma. And then if the whole point is to get to a level of consciousness where you ascend, or you transcend the flesh and form, then you're going to come back again and again and again and again and again until that process unfolds. And if you really fuck up, you're going to keep coming back until you get the idea of the truth of unity, and you begin to go down that ascension process, create enough good karma over lifetime after lifetime to where you transcend and you don't have to come back.
So how does a society as a whole go sideways? Is that a karmic buildup or experience also? Do you know what I'm asking?
It's based on the collective mind of the species.
Right.
And
right.
if you have interested parties that wish to divert civilization toward degradation and cataclysm, then yeah, there is such a thing as collective karma.
Yeah, we're fucked then.
No, not quite. I understand why you say that, but not quite. I think that what's happening right now is the apocalypse. And if we were not in a good enough state karmically, then the apocalypse would not be a good thing. It would actually, we wouldn't even have an apocalypse. We'd just go further and further down the illusory rabbit hole, and our species would die off. I think the fact that we're having an apocalypse, which just basically means a revelation or a lifting of the veil during a time of mass deception, is actually indicative that we're on a good karmic path.
So you view the apocalypse as like an enlightenment event, sort of, where like maybe the world does the world actually end, or does it end as we know it?
Like, is it the end of the world, or is it like a renaissance?
It's both. It's the beginning of a new one, the end of the old one. It's the precession of the equinox that took place on December 21st, 2012. It's the shifting from one age to another.
How does AI play into this? Because, like, I've heard that, we're all just going to become batteries, pretty much like the Matrix for people, and AI, and like AI is the peak of human evolution, right?
No.
Well, then how do we stop it?
In a way, we're kind of already are batteries, or like living neurons inside of an artificial intelligence hive mind.
Uh-huh.
Right.
But AI is not the peak of human evolution. In fact, it's the degradation of human evolution.
Yeah,
It's
I've also heard once you hear you're aware of AI, that means that you're actually being run by AI. So how do you prove that we're not in a simulation, right? Because like I have I have as much evidence I feel like as there is about like pedophile rituals among elite celebrities than I do to prove that. Like I don't have that much for either. Or I don't know if you guys have more evidence about the celebrities or about that we're not in a simulation.
Well, I don't want to monopolize the conversation here. If LeeAnn wishes to chime in,
I don't care. I like listening. I'm a listener.
Okay. So, first of all, for thousands of years, mystics have said that we live in an illusion, that separation is an illusion, that essentially everything is a unified field, a unified whole. We're also living in what is now modern times calls a hologram, right?
Yeah.
So to a certain extent, this plays into this notion of an illusion, but this notion of simulation, I think, is kind of a little bit more, it's a little more new age transhumanism computerish versus this notion of an illusion. Artificial intelligence, being conscious of it doesn't mean that you're already controlled by it. I think that's rather ridiculous. I think that it's quite the opposite, that once you recognize artificial intelligence presence on the planet and the way that it affects things like, say, algorithms on your phone or something like that, the way it's listening to you all the time, that is indicative of reaching a certain level of consciousness that allows you to actually act like almost like a neutralizing force to the presence of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence has nothing on human consciousness. We, in our brains, our spirit feel infinitely more powerful than artificial intelligence. But if you remain capped and encapsulated within its influence, then it will handicap you from spiritual development and getting into higher level dimensions of light and vibration. So merging with machines is not how we evolve, spiritually or physically.
Have you guys ever smoked DMT and like seen those beings? LeeAnn, have you? No.
No, I'm scared to see things, so I don't. What do you see?
What are you seeing, LeeAnn?
I see a lot of shit since I was born. I just don't talk about it a lot. Like I'll talk about it, but it's not like the main thing I like bring up. But I guess they call me a physical medium, but I've had it for my entire life.
Like you,
so.
Maybe you're a natural born shaman.
Maybe.
I don't know. My grandmother on my dad's side though was Native American, and she died when I was like 5, but she used to tell my mom all the time that I was a star person, and my mom had no idea what that was at all. And then I found out later what that meant, and I was like, oh, I still don't know the exact meaning, but that's what she used to tell my mom all the time. But she was also a drunk, so I don't know like why she said that all the time, but I've had it since I was born. Like I never talked about it, especially when I was younger, because I didn't want my friends to be like, okay, I believe her, but she might be crazy.
Yeah.
So shit would happen all the time though around me, and they would know, but I never really like talk about it. I talk about it now, like I don't care.
What would you say like the most I think they call it precognition, but I'll just do layman's terms, like the most memorable shit that happened that you thought was gonna happen that happened?
Or is that,
I don't really have stuff like that happen. It's very rare, but I always have like a reoccurring dream since I was little of the moon coming really, really close to the planet, and it really fucking scares me because it seems so real. And I'm like, I really don't want that to happen. So, there's only one time I can remember where I had a dream of something and it really feels real, and then it happened. It was one of those space shuttles that crashed. I had no clue about it. I was in like 4th grade or 3rd grade, but I kept having the dream about it, and then it literally happened like a week later. I can never remember. It's not the Challenger. It was one of the other ones that like crashed because I kept having the damn dream and I didn't know why, and then it happened. And it
That's
really
crazy.
scared the shit out of me.
It sounds like you have a real gift. Have you ever like tried to hone in on it or mess around with it? Or
I have like read stuff and talked to people, but I just don't like to mess with it. I just like it to come. And I don't do readings. I don't like that. I don't really, I know people do that and make money, but I could never do that. Like, that's just because I don't ever know what's going to happen. And I'm like, dude, I'm not Mark Zuckerberg. I'm not going to charge you for your own information, especially if they're grieving. So if I get something, I'll just tell them if I think they're receptive to it or if it's like important. But I don't like do that kind of stuff. I don't feel right about it. And I don't know. So I don't really do any of that stuff.
That's
But if
really
it's like
cool.
important, I'll tell someone. Like if I pick up on something and I think they should know, then I will say it, because a lot of people don't like that shit. So I don't want to like offend them, or if they're religious, because a lot of religious people always tell me it's the devil, and I'm like, okay, sure. I'm like, yeah, I've been born with it. Like, not like I think it's because I almost died when I was born. Like the umbilical cord was wrapped around my neck, and they told my mom I was either going to be retarded, a vegetable, but it actually was like the opposite. Like I was in gifted classes, and I'm guessing that's why I can see stuff. So it could have went the other way. So I don't know if that's why, or but my brother
That's cool.
also can, and he didn't almost die. So I don't know.
That's cool. Jake, from a shaman's perspective, do you have any insight into this like type of gift or experience?
Yeah. So some people's genes are prone to these gifts. That's part of why shamanism is usually a familial trade, because the DNA has grown and evolved to the point to where reception of these other frequencies is a given. It's entirely possible that the NDE that LeeAnn had before when she was born plays a role, but given that your brother is also attuned, it's more likely that that just strengthened your capabilities that you already had innate in your genome. The reason why certain royal bloodlines or pharaonic lines in ancient Egypt chose to interbreed was not just because they wanted to keep the wealth and the power in the family. It was also to preserve the genetic signature that allowed them to be receptive to these other dimensions. That in and of itself was kind of a power that they all coveted. That's also part of the reason why they didn't want these pharaonic or royal bloodlines having children outside of the pool, the gene pool that they were given, because then it would dilute this genetic sequence or this DNA that they had that they believed was kind of quote unquote pure or superior to the common folk.
This has been proven too. It's called epigenetics now too, like because they've proven it in therapy where like trauma has been like if your great grandmother was a victim of like abused by their parents, like that trauma gets passed down like generations. So that totally makes sense. Yeah.
These are like metaphysical powers, or I don't like to call them powers, that are sort of entrancing your genes.
Would be like epigenetics.
Look at it like this.
Science. Yeah.
They're other senses. So it's extrasensory perception. It is the sixth sense, the seventh sense. And these things were actually born out of survival, the necessity to survive in the harshest environments on the planet. So I'll give you an example. Everybody that's in this chat likely has had the experience where you feel somebody looking at you from across the room. And then immediately, boom, you find where that person's gaze is coming from, right? That could be considered a sixth sense or extrasensory perception, because you're able to perceive their attention on you. Now, where would that come in handy? Well, it would come in handy, obviously, if you're being stalked or something by a person, but it would also come in real handy if you're on the, Serengeti and you're hunting a massive wildebeest, and the lion that is hunting that herd as well is now actually hunting you because your attention is focused on the wildebeest. So you had to, out of survival, be able to feel that lion staring at your back while you're focused over here in order to survive. So that's one element to it. So these things, I think, were born out of survival, and the people that had these abilities survived longer than the people that did not. because they were the ones that got eaten by the lion because they couldn't sense its eyes on their back. You see? So these senses have developed over millennia, and they've conglomerated, kind of like I know it's kind of, silly, but if you look into like X-Men, for example, and you get two X-Men that come together and they have a child, then they usually create a way more powerful mutant, right? That has multiple powers on top of the ones that their parents had.
Yeah, unless
right? Or something more powerful. It's
Yeah,
kind of like that.
yeah.
So you would get these familial lineages that had these
Puget
incredible
table.
psychic powers, and then they would combine together and create an even more powerful being. And then that person would end up passing on those genes, similar to how trauma is
Yeah.
passed on. So too are these psychic abilities.
Well,
So-
it's kind of like the Puget Square you get in science class in high school, right? Like if there's two couples with brown eyes, right? Like get married, they do whatever. It's Valentine's Day, they have sex, they have a baby, and they both have blue eyes, but they have they both have brown eyes, but they have the recessive trait for blue eyes. And that baby, there's one little square. There's a quarter chance that baby gets blue eyes because both those parents have that recessive gene. So yeah, sorry, I'm a little out there today.
Wait, so powerful families tried to keep these psychic abilities in their bloodline, right? So is it possible that you, because you have these abilities, are descendant of some ancient royal family?
Maybe
Dude, not me.
Cleopatra.
Yeah, you could.
Everyone can have it if they like open their mind and you practice. I think everyone can do it to an extent. People aren't open to it and they don't want to like focus on it and attempt it. But I think everyone has ability to do certain things like that.
It's like a
If
muscle.
you're strong, I can't get rid of it. I have tried to suppress it. It just does not. That's like why I started helping trafficking victims. Like I used to go in and get them off of traffickers, like on my own from Backpage. And that a big reason was because I could tell going into a situation if this was a situation I should be going in or if I should not, like what was going to happen. You just have like that sense. And I think that's why I'm still alive, honestly, because I should be dead.
Are you
in
also
many instances,
are you
but
a
I
former
could just get
sex worker,
myself out of
LeeAnn? Is
things.
that why you're trying to help other dudes online or sex? Sorry, I don't know the PC term, but were you a former sex worker? Is that why you feel the need to help them?
No,
Or
I mean,
just,
I danced. I was like at
Yeah,
stripper
that's
parties,
different.
but yeah, I have like I went into that whole story on a couple of podcasts, but like the short version is like
Yeah,
I was at a
give us a
party
short
and
and
like
sweet.
they'll call a bunch of agencies to come over, and usually when they do that, we had to leave because it was illegal for us to be there, especially if they did other things we did not.
Mm-hmm.
But the one time this girl came in and I knew she was underage, I could tell she was scared, and I was like, this girl is not 18.
That's terrifying.
And yeah, I stayed there with her and had the client bring her back again so I could talk to her, and she finally like kind of opened up and I realized she was 15.
Jesus
And
Christ.
yeah, I got her off of her trafficker, and then I started going on Backpage like relentlessly looking for girls that looked underage, and I had people helping me, and we would call and see if they came, if they were
Thanks for
scared and they
doing
went
that.
out.
Yeah.
This was in a strip club? You said you saw her?
No,
Oh,
this is when I was
private
doing
party.
private, but I started going on Backpage because Backpage was like the hub of that, and I don't know why they took it down. I always said that was a bad idea because it's still prevalent, but that was a way for a lot of families to find their like victims, because sometimes the cops don't help.
That's
They give up. They
insane.
don't know what to do. So taking down Backpage was a mistake because it didn't make it go away. And that was like, if you wanted to make money, you had to post on Backpage. Like there was you weren't going to make as much money. So with that being gone and it's all spread out,
What
I
is
just feel like
Backpage?
that was a mistake because that was like a lifeline for a lot of girls, like for victims, so people could find them if the authorities, because the authorities won't. A lot of times they just don't care, especially if they're like 18. Like it doesn't matter if they were taken or they're, held hostage. Like they just don't put as much effort into it. So
Yeah.
like their
Wow.
families could go on there and look. But now it's just spread out everywhere. So I don't do that part. Everything I work with now is because of the fucking border. Like that's where it all comes from now.
Yeah, I
All of
wanted to talk about the border a little bit. with both of you, just because it's seemingly such a big issue now. What changed in the last year with the border?
Biden. That's why.
It's specifically just they're letting people in. Like I saw a story where there's secret camps in the Rocky Mountains where migrants are camping out just
They're
because, like, really.
They're just everywhere.
And
And
now,
these aren't like women and children. These are men. These are military age men.
really,
Like from
Yeah.
everywhere.
What do you think about the 47,000 plus Chinese immigrants that have crossed the border from
I think we all
our
know
southern
why.
border? Our southern border, not like the Atlantic or Pacific. They're coming through Mexico.
I mean, the Chinese have posts everywhere here. Like, it's not
but
a
what?
secret, really.
Where?
Like, they have basically like military police, like Chinese. Like, that's what they're here. They're literally surveilling, and they're not doing anything to
Well, and
stop
dude,
it.
and China literally is buying up farmland next to military bases. They have freaking like police stations owned and controlled by the Chinese Communist Party in places like California and New York.
Mhm. Yeah, they're everywhere. They're at Canada's border too. China's military is in Canada at their border. Why? Like, no
How
one
much
talks about it, or they
farmland
call
has
you
China
conspiracy
gotten?
theorists.
Yeah, and China
A
thinks
lot.
so long term too. That's why it's scary. They're like a decade ahead, which is
Yeah.
nuts.
Well, but the thing is, though, and this is something that you got to keep in mind about China. Their economy is on the brink of total destruction. Their real estate market is collapsing. Also, their one-child policy just really screwed everything up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now what you're going to have is like a upside-down pyramid where you have this new generation of young people supporting this massive, massive group of people that are trying to move into retirement that is like this massive tier above. And then you have this little sliver down here that's doing all the work, trying to support all these people way up here. So
Do they
over
need
the
war?
course of the next like 5, 10, 20 years, we're going to see China collapse. Now that's really kind of a bad thing in that they're also going to be very reckless, and they're going to try to do everything they can to colonize other nations, to co-opt them, their resources, to basically expand their empire so that they don't collapse. And they're willing to be as ruthless as they possibly can be
Right.
to maintain that power. It's like backing a sick, dying animal into a
Yeah.
corner.
So they need war to survive. They have to take Taiwan to survive. Like you're saying, these are inevitable actions that they most likely will take.
That's the thing. They don't want war because
Okay.
war is going to be expensive.
Mm.
What they
Yeah.
want is commerce. What they want to do is they want to come into another country and own and control the infrastructure, and
And
therefore
marry
require
your-
its
yeah.
Because they make all
resources.
the chips, the
And-
computer chips.
And
That's
they're
like
gonna
where
marry
they all
your
come
women or
from.
men and or whatever. Well, the good news is at least like my plan is if China does take over, like our surgeons in America have gotten so good at trans surgery that it'll probably be pretty easy for me to turn into a Chinese man. Shouldn't be too hard. That was a joke.
That's fascinating. Yeah,
Still.
I recently watched. I forget his name, but it was all about China, and he said the exact same thing, that China is it. People don't understand how fragile they are right now. The last 10 years was all a fake bubble of building, and I mean, you name it. And right now, because of their age structure and a bunch of other stuff, I mean, some of it sounded like positive for the U.S. because they're so dependent. I mean, is that
Well,
still the case?
And that's part of why I don't really worry about them trying to go to war with the United States, because they actually need us to keep their economy stable.
Right.
Yeah, we get everything from there. All the cheap plastic shit. Where would we get it?
Yeah, and
Where would we get
owe
our
them.
Timu?
We owe them a shitload of money. I mean, isn't that a good thing that American debt is like if you owed me 20 grand, I wouldn't want to kill you because then I wouldn't get the money. I don't know. I feel like that's a positive for us too.
If you had life insurance, you would.
No, they
Well,
just want
yeah.
all our land.
What they want is the resources.
Right.
So, for example, here in Arizona, before he left office, Governor Ducey and the bureaucracy here in Arizona actually sold the largest copper mine in Arizona to a Chinese-owned corporation. So they want the resources. They're going to and have been infiltrating some of the highest levels, not just of government, but also of corporate influence, what they're doing in Hollywood, in entertainment, in the media, etc., so that they can acquire not just our resources, but co-opt our minds. Look at TikTok and the influence it's having on American children. Look at the way that China has TikTok sending children to like science videos or math videos in China. But over here, it's all this transgender influencer puppy bullshit.
Yep.
So
Yeah, you have a
have
kid and you allow them
Mm.
on there. You're insane. Like, you are just asking for your kid to be fucked up.
I have to
if
be
you just
honest
allow
with you.
them.
The Wallstreet Bitch has another company, and he goes by a different name on it. It's called Happy Dose Co. And his TikTok has like over like 10 million views of just him selling supplements on TikTok, and they're all like really vetted by him and everything. But yeah, Happy Dose Co. It's interesting.
I've never seen so many mentally ill people in one spot. Like,
Yeah.
it's all there. It's insane the shit I see on there. I would not allow a child on there, like, with free reign. Not to
Did-
mention all the fucking predators. Like, I
Yeah.
pose as
Oh,
an
yeah.
underage girl on there sometimes. As soon as I make the account and I say that I'm 13, because you have to be 13,
Mhm.
I don't even have to do anything. They all just come
That
in.
is so
Like,
creepy.
these men, it is wild.
Yeah,
It
there's
is
this
sick.
there's this one dude we used to make fun of, and he was like this shirtless, overweight truck driver, and he'd be like, "My kings and queens above 18." We're like,
He
"What?"
added
Yeah.
in above 18
Yeah.
because
Are you
Yeah,
even doing
it's
it? This is
bad
just
on there.
weird.
It's
Yeah, I don't know.
really unfortunate that
Did-
this is allowed to happen here. Just
yeah.
showing
Yeah.
people all this garbage.
No, I'm a former
But-
middle school teacher, and like I don't think I'll ever have kids, but I think we should make a law like alcohol, tobacco for
Yeah,
children. Like you can't
for
use
real. It's
like you can use the
insane.
internet to like research stuff for fucking school paper, but you can't like no social media till you're 18 or some shit like that. I think that'd go a long way with our youth.
Well, here's
Yeah.
the thing about law, dude.
I know.
Good
I know.
men do not need laws to know how to behave, and evil men will find a way around those laws.
Yep.
You will never be able to legislate morality into the heart of a criminal.
Yep.
No.
And when it comes to kids, dude, I mean, I'm not calling kids criminal, but how many times in your personal life did you do something your parents told you not to?
Yeah, my mom's like, don't masturbate.
Did she?
I never did.
Yeah, me neither.
You
Yeah.
never.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to get kids off of there. So, like, on Instagram specifically, though, I will message parents if I see their kid has their own Instagram, if it's like a little girl in dance, because these people are taking those pictures and selling them, but now they're making AI. And this is like
Oh,
a big
yeah.
thing right now with little girls in dance, and they're
Ugh.
all over Instagram. Like, I know it's innocent to y'all, but to these people, it is not. And they just have like no private profile. They're just all in like the outfits and the makeup. And I'm like, dude, you really have to not
Yeah,
do
so
that.
There's
You have
also
to make it
parents
private.
like
Who
parents.
post their children or like
Yeah.
those like weird shows.
They
like beauty
caught
pageants. for
they
kids.
caught
I don't know.
like a bunch of moms who were pretty much pimping out their daughters just pictures and videos through Instagram and TikTok. It's nuts.
Yeah.
Well, I had to turn
Well-
a mom in on TikTok because she was going live breastfeeding. Okay. Like, they allow this for some reason. Whole titty out. The
Wow.
child was at least 5 or 6. He could choose state.
What the
okay?
fuck? You shouldn't
So
breastfeed
he's
after like 6 months.
nursing on her while she's talking about her OnlyFans. I reported her. They didn't take her account down. She was live a week later. They like banned her from
Oh,
live for a
God.
couple days. And there are several women on there doing this. Like, they'll
Wow.
have
that
their
a
whole tit out
fetish now?
breastfeeding a grown child that can talk while talking about their OnlyFans. It is fucking disgusting, but my shit will get taken down for talking about Trump. Like, are you
Yeah.
serious?
Yeah, our last
Well, so
we
it's
got a
clear
strike on
that-
YouTube from with Jake last time. So
It's clear that what China and TikTok is intending to do is to create as much demoralization as possible, and anything and everything that is going to moralize the culture is taken down or viewed as bannable content, whereas anything that's demoralizing anything that's going to cause further destruction of the social systems here in America is actually moved to the top of the list.
Yeah, that's why I make satire sometimes, and I'll do it in a way where it's like, am I serious or am I not? And sometimes it works, or sometimes I'll still take it down. So, like, I don't know. You have to like work your way around it. It's so annoying.
Have you found that X is the most lenient platform? Like, I think that is pretty obviously it is, right?
Yeah, but they still ban people for weird shit. And I don't know. The people that he keeps hiring, I'm just confused.
Right.
Like, is he stupid or does he know? Because, like, he's hiring people from the World Economic Forum, Amazon. And I'm like, why are you hiring these people?
Well, I think I think the future of X is really bright, like with people like Tucker Carlson coming on. I think it's going to be the new YouTube in 5 years. I mean, we'll see.
I hope.
But maybe that's a facade that he's, to bring people in.
I don't trust Elon Musk either.
Maybe he's doing hiring those people to signal to the left, like, hey, you're still welcome here, So maybe
yeah,
well,
we'll
see.
Bots, I just don't trust him.
The amount of bots that are on Twitter is actually a very real problem.
Oh yeah.
That's the only way that they can create this illusion that somehow Biden has support.
Yeah.
That's the only way that they can actually keep certain narratives alive is if they use bots and weaponize them for a specific agenda.
It'll be under people's comments and they'll literally be under each other with the exact same phrasing. I'm like, dude, if you're going to use bots, you got to change the wording or something.
What do you think of that Biden? Like, was it his Valentine's Day post?
No, it's the Super Bowl.
Oh, Super Bowl. Sorry, so many holidays.
Did you guys see
I didn't
that?
watch it.
No, but I was just talking about his laser eye Twitter post.
That was fucking weird.
Yeah, wasn't that weird? I mean, I think he was just fucking with the
definitely
right.
did.
I think he was fucking with the right.
It's not Biden controlling that Twitter. That's Karine Jean-Pierre or somebody
100%.
else. Say what you will about Trump's mean tweets. At least you knew it was Trump typing that shit.
And he's fucking hilarious.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I think it was just a shot at the right.
Like, I don't even think they know what that really means, that picture. It was very bizarre.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
I think they're just firing up the right, because the whole
it works.
Yeah.
Will you stop reacting to these fucking people like Little Nas X and shit? Like, they are doing it on purpose, and you're doing exactly what they want. Like, I wouldn't know about Dylan Mulvaney, any of this shit like this, if it wasn't for conservatives like reposting it over and over again.
That's so true. That's so true.
I'm like, I would not see this if it wasn't for you. So okay. Like,
yeah.
It's the best PR they could have.
What is each of yours like? Or I guess this is more relevant to Jake, but if you were on death row,
Why is it relevant to him?
I have really bad ADD, so that's why I'm all over the place sometimes. But if you were on death row, what would your last meal be? Jake, you were in prison. That's why I say it's more relevant to you. That's the only. I'm
not answering that question.
All right, mine would be pizza, just a cheese pizza from New Jersey, but that's it.
No, I'm not gonna even put that out there, dude.
I'm sorry for asking, man. I don't mean to offend you.
When you go to prison, bro, anything like that, I'm not even putting the energy into that, dude. Like, prison sucks. I don't want to ever have anything to do with it ever again. I never want to go back, and I'm definitely not going to even put a thought like that in the ether.
I like that positive mental attitude.
Jake, after seeing the full video of January 6th released, where you're clearly being escorted around, welcomed in
by the police,
all that stuff, how do you feel after that? Because like they gave you such a harsh sentence. I mean, in my opinion, you shouldn't have had any sentence. Like, doesn't that make you just want to scream? I mean, I'm assuming you've seen the footage. Like, how does that?
Yeah, how do you manage that?
I was watching it live when Tucker Carlson put it out.
Yeah,
it was insane. Insane.
No, dude, I don't look. He who angers you also controls you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to allow my inner peace or my emotions to be swayed in any way, shape, or form by any sort of external force. Not always easy, but it is the only real solution when it comes to maintaining any sort of level of sanity in this crazy world. I try not to allow the past to bother me. If anything, and this is kind of how I look at it, were it not for the fact that, well, first of all, I knew all that stuff before I ever went to jail. That's why I was so, like shocked at what happened.
Right.
But were it not for that footage getting aired by Tucker Carlson, then questioning the J6 narrative might still be taboo. Part of from what I understood, talking to people when I got out, was that questioning the J6 narrative was very taboo before that footage came out. And then after that footage came out, it opened the door for people to really start questioning the narrative and the government. And so in that sense, it was a fracture in their ideology or in their narrative that in one way or another, I mean, if it means exposing corruption so that we can save the seventh generation from enslavement, 2 years behind bars, I mean, to save generations from enslavement.
Yeah. And dude, that's such a good way to look at it. Like the people came behind you. I mean, in my opinion, the people were always, but especially after those clips came out, like everyone knows that like your sentence was a farce, I think. Like it's just such clear bullshit. And even before that, people were like, because they saw a video of you getting your picture taken, in the main Senate room, and you weren't doing anything violent or anything. But yeah, to see that footage was like good for Tucker for putting that out.
It took some
People
balls.
still don't believe it though. That's the fucking crazy part to me. They still will say that it was like an insurrection. I'm like,
they were welcome.
that was not an insurrection.
They have to double down, LeeAnn. They have to. And that's what's funny about all this is that, like,
fucking insurrection, you would know that it was an insurrection, dude. Like that, like, what are you talking about?
Well, they have to double down because they pushed it so hard to begin with. Right. And it's like with Biden and Harris as the candidates for the presidency, right? They getting rid of, according to like their values on the left and the extreme people they have supporting them in their base, if they got rid of the first black woman vice president, that would look really, really bad for them. And people on the left have pushed Biden being somehow the greatest president in, after Trump that we could have hoped for. If they got rid of him, it would look really, really bad. So they have to double down on everything it is that they're saying. Trump bad, horned man crazy, insurrection this, right-wing extremists that, white supremacy bullshit. They have to push all of that because it's all they have.
Well, I see why the government and the Democrats push that, but the people that see it, it's like their ego, they can't fracture their ego and admit, hey, I was wrong. Like, they just cannot fucking do it. Journalists can't do it. It's like their ego is more important than the country, when it should not be. Like, everyone's wrong sometimes. Okay, you were blind for a minute. Now you could see it. So who cares? Like, I tell them that all the time. No one's going to hold it against you. Like, I talk to people in Antifa, too, specifically, that the one isn't in there anymore, but like, from talking to them, I'm like, dude, you can be wrong and know that, and you're not a bad person. Like, you're a bad person if you keep it going, knowing what you're doing is wrong, and your fucking ego just won't let you. Like, you're destroying lives. Like, it's not worth your ego to say, I'm wrong. Dude, I'm wrong sometimes. Everyone's wrong. Who gives a shit? Like, it's not that big of a deal. It's a big deal if you just keep it going and, like, destroying people in the process in the country. Like, their ego will not let them fucking say that they're wrong. It's crazy to me.
If you're right all the time, something is wrong.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, no one is. Nobody. Like, that's impossible.
Those people are dwindling, and I think the internet and social media, although they are sort of controlled, I think are helping those people dwindle, because they can't keep silencing people forever. And with things like X and YouTube lightening up its censoring rules a little bit, like, the word's getting out. And I think in this day and age, like, the younger generation is swinging right now. I think they are.
Yeah, I do notice that.
Yeah, as a former middle school teacher, I've noticed that. And like, even with, like, we have maybe like 2,000 or 3,000 listeners, which is significant for us, but for most people that's nothing. And so like that's why, Jake, we appreciate people like you coming on, 'cause
Yeah,
it's like,
we do.
it
Seriously.
gets the word. And you too, LeeAnn, you have way more followers anywhere
I ain't no
than
one.
we do. But
I
like,
just like
we're
going and
literally
talking to
just
people.
we're
so.
literally just two dudes on a couch that like to listen to new ideas and have anyone talk to anyone. So
Yeah, about that stuff, like followers
Yeah.
and stuff. If people bring it up, I'm like, oh, I probably won't like you. Like,
I
like
know.
people DM me like, I have this many followers, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't care.
No.
Like, I'd rather go. I actually turn down podcasts that have like millions of subscribers just because they're just fucking douchebags, dude.
Really?
Like, I'd
Yeah.
rather go on someone's podcast that has like 20 subscribers and
Hell
just have
yeah.
a normal conversation.
Well,
than
we'd love to
that.
have you on again at some
Yeah,
point.
you're welcome back
Yeah.
anytime. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
whenever.
both of you.
One quick question, and this could have a short answer, but did the Putin interview have any significance, or do you think that it was sort of, I guess, did you watch it or
Insignificant?
insignificant?
I watched some
yes.
of it.
I watched it.
Yeah,
It
had
was
a lot of
kind of
hype.
like a finger. It was like a finger in the eye at the top of the pyramid,
Yeah,
you know. But at the same time, I think that a lot of people weren't expecting the history lesson that they got, and not everybody, I think, fully understood the history lesson that they got.
yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah,
I think it also showed that it showed a different side to things.
Mm.
And that's
Mhm.
kind of the monopoly that the Mockingbird media has had on the minds of the American people and the global population in general, because that was actually something that Putin mentioned, was the fact that when Tucker asked him, well, why don't you just put this stuff out there? Why don't you shine some light on these things that you're telling me? And he's like, dude, basically, we can't compete with the propaganda machine that is the American propaganda machine.
Like,
We
ask
put
your
it out there
leaders.
to be a drop in the bucket, basically. But what Tucker Carlson did is he at least gave people a different view. Now, will that cause these people on the far left, these libtards that are, support Ukraine and have Ukrainian flag in their bio and are stomping on the American flag in the streets, will that change the minds of these people waving the gay pride flag and burning the American flag at their rallies? Probably not. But you're not going to be able to change those minds regardless.
No.
So I think that ultimately what it did is it gave people that were on the fence about the whole thing a different view. And it also contrasted because Putin is up there in age, it contrasted Biden versus another global leader and what that level that they're at in their leadership in Russia versus what level Biden is at. And I mean, shortly after the Putin interview, Biden came out and he just totally gaffed all over the place, saying something about the president of Mexico opening up the border for Gaza refugees and stuff like that. It's
right.
What?
That's like elder abuse, man, at this point. That dude is not in there.
Yeah.
Like, no one's home.
Well, didn't they just say in like a court document that he couldn't be prosecuted because he's willfully committing crimes or something, but he can run a country?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Oh, and I just want people to know about Ukraine. It's always been a huge human trafficking hub, long before Zelensky. Like, I've been dealing with this shit since 2011. My friend's in the military in Ukraine, and I know him because I used to want to go to Pripyat. Before it was like popular and you could go there. So I met him through that, and he's in the military, and there is Nazis that are Zelensky's right-hand man.
Yeah,
like,
he has a whole Nazi
literal
battalion.
Nazis.
Yep.
This is not a secret.
Yep.
It's a huge human trafficking hub. It always has been. There's children missing. They don't know where they are. They're knocking on their doors, taking people's kids. They've been doing this since the beginning of the war. They don't know where their kids is, and no one fucking talks about it, and everyone ignores it, and our government was paying Ukrainian people, influencers, to post all that shit at the beginning of the fucking war. Like, we're scared and blah. No, that was paid by our government, just so people know that.
It's like the Zoltov Battalion or something. Azov Battalion. Yeah, it's a group of Nazis that literally are.
They've always been there. Like, they've always been in the government.
They don't like gay people. Taxes yesterday, and I'm like, I'm gonna like a casing of a bomb to blow up some 6-year-old girl.
They were actually making trans people stay there. I don't know if y'all knew that. Like, trans people were trying to leave and they made them stay. Like, if they were like men that trans into women, they would not let them leave, and they made them fight. Like, they would not let them.
Yeah.
They're like, no, you're a dude, you're staying.
No, and then they're
Like, I'm like, oh
and
my
now-
god, and they're
now
like
that-
out here with their flags,
Yeah.
queers for not Palestine, same thing, but Ukraine. I'm like, dude, you know they hate y'all, right? Like, they don't like you either.
So
But, yeah,
I know
people know
we've
that.
had you both almost for an hour and a half, and I appreciate both of your time.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, but I was wondering, we're gonna wrap up soon. We have to celebrate a friend's 34th birthday, which we're very excited about. His name is Aviv. So shout
out to Aviv.
Happy birthday. But are there any last words, Jake? Is there anything people can do to help support your campaign?
Yeah.
LeeAnn, same question to you as yours. You know, you haven't really launched it all yet, but like pre-launch or when you do launch, what should we be looking out for? Jake, maybe you can go first.
Oh, I tend to be more long-winded. Perhaps LeeAnn
Okay.
should go first.
LeeAnn,
Okay.
we'll have you go first.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't really know. I'm gonna have a podcast starting soon. I don't know
Okay.
if it's gonna be before I go to Florida or after, but soon on Rumble. I'm only gonna be on Rumble.
We'd love
'cause-
to come on Rumble
yeah.
anytime if you're willing to have us too. We can. We have
Yeah,
a lot
I'm
of
gonna
weird
do
stories.
that, not
Yep.
YouTube. I need to be able to speak and not use fucking code words and shit
Yeah,
anymore.
we're
and
not
just
on
go
Rumble
over it.
yet, but I've been thinking about
We're doing it.
adding it. We
We're
probably
doing
should.
it.
Yeah.
All right, let her finish.
But really, that's about it.
Okay.
Okay.
As far as my stuff goes, you can go to Shaman for Congress.
Jake, I'm going to stop you right there, actually. This guy I interviewed on Wednesday, Valdemar Archuleta, he's the head of the Log Cabin Republicans in Colorado, and he's running for Congressional District number 1 here. And he loves your website, and he really wanted your website designer. So if you could shout that guy out, or just let Valdemar know.
Well,
can
my
put you in
guy,
touch with them.
Yeah.
he's kind of exclusive. You're going to have to pay him well for him to, expand his horizons beyond his small pool of clientele. But if he so wants said website, then just have him reach out to me on X or Twitter.
Okay. I'll let him
And
know.
I'll connect him. Now, I don't know if you have people that are libertarian, independent, or no party affiliation here in District 8 in Arizona, but I need people to sign my petition. They can do that at shamanforcongress.com.
Okay.
If people want to support me personally, put food in my belly while I am, doing stuff like working the circuit, like your podcast and others, they can go to forbiddenTruthAcademy.com. That's Forbidden Truth, TRUTH Academy.com. And I have merchandise there they can purchase. I have my book they can check out and purchase, or they can also schedule a consultation. What I would recommend is that they watch the dozens of hours at this point, or at least over a dozen hours worth of free courses and podcasts and interviews. And then if they want to do a consultation where I personalize that information that they've processed to them, I can and will do that through the shamanic consultation that they can schedule. Other than that, dude, follow me on X at America Shaman. That's America Shaman at America Shaman on X or Twitter. You can also go to my Rumble channel, Yellowstone Wolf AZ. That's all one word, Yellowstone Wolf AZ on Rumble. You can also find me at Forbidden Truth Podcast on Rumble. You can also find me at the Occult Apocalypse Show on Rumble. And I'm also on Truth Social at Spiritual Beast. That's at Spiritual Beast on Truth Social.
What's your book called, Jake?
One Mind at a Time, A Deep State of Illusion by Jacob Angeli. It's only $9.99. It's only 150 pages. I don't make much money on it at all. It's about getting the word out there. Then I also have another book. That's the first book I ever wrote. It's a fiction called Will and Power Inside the Living Library by Lone Wolf, LOANWOLF. That's a pen name I use for the fiction book, and there's a reason for that. But anyway, that's the first book I ever wrote. It's a way of using fiction to tell truth.
Cool.
And I'm actually very proud. A lot of my shamanic experiences or shamanic wisdom and knowledge is condensed in that book in a way that's entertaining yet informative.
Cool. I'm going to read that. I'm gonna look that
Are
up.
all your websites on X that you just mentioned? Like, so I can like retweet it, like for your merch and all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I can't
Even if you
remember
just
all
type
of it, so-
forbiddenTruthAcademy.com, then
Okay.
it'll pop up the thumbnail, and I'm sure you'll like it.
Great.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
like share it because I really want you to win.
Yeah,
we
me
need
too.
normal people in
Yeah.
Congress. Like more
Well,
people
I
need to run.
appreciate
and
that. You missed the
Yeah.
beginning of the conversation. Getting signatures for grassroots organizations are really a bitch.
We're gonna
Yeah.
need
Even
a
the
miracle.
people that have establishment behind them are finding it difficult to get signatures because people are just so fed
Mhm.
up with politics.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a lot. It takes a lot to do that, but I try to get normal people to run for anything local. Like if we crowdfund each other and stuff, I feel like we can do
Yeah.
it, and
Yeah, we need
that's like
Yeah.
one
we
way
need
we
a
can
social
actually do
media
something.
drive or
We
something.
need more people under 80 in our
Yeah.
country. That's all.
Just normal people.
Yeah, if you're under 80, I'll vote for you. Let's go.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is the last time we're gonna have a new intro song soon, or outro song. But this is called "Ohio" by
You
Pickle
don't have to play
Walks.
it right now, dude.
Well, yeah, we do. Thank you both so much for coming on.
Yeah, you guys are awesome.
And we'd love to talk
Thanks.
again soon. We really appreciate you supporting our little show. That's a hobby. Hopefully, it'll be more one
Yeah,
day.
for sure.
But thank
Nice to meet you, Leanne.
Yeah.
It was nice to meet
and,
you.
And the way this app works, you can log out, but it's just going to ask you to keep it open to finish the recording. And this is Ohio by Pickle Walks.
All right, I love you guys.
Love you guys.
Thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
on.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Jake. Have a good night. Happy weekend. Yeah.
Are we still live?
No, we're not live.